Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Future of Customer Service podcast, where we analyze the latest in artificial intelligence, how to deal with your customers, progress, and the future. And today, I'm really happy to have here with us John Stroud and Jennifer Shellinck, both founders at a company called AI Guides. So my first question here for you guys is, who are you and what is AI Guides?
Well, as you know, my name is Jen. Thanks for that introduction. And yeah, I'm a data scientist. I have a focus in artificial intelligence, machine learning. I also have a background in cognitive science. And I have a data science company in Ottawa, Canada, that's focused on design and implementation of these systems. But I was very excited to come together with John to push forward AI Guides because we both share this really strong conviction that it's not just about the technology. So it's about the human piece plus the tech piece. And I'm coming in sort of from the tech side. And John, I'll turn it over to you to talk about the human side.
Sure. So I'm in Ottawa, Canada as well, and I am not a data scientist. My background is in the humanities. And so I spent about 20 years in the public service, like the government of Canada. So my last job there was an executive where I was responsible for like a large team in an organization of 8,000. And my responsibilities were around strategy, HR, corporate services. And while I was there, I got really intrigued about the possibility about how technology and people could work together. And I got so excited about it that I decided to leave the job and set up shop on my own to help other companies with the same area. And then in terms of what AI Guides is, well, it's Jen and I coming together, and we are consultants. And we are who entrepreneurs are calling if they are worried that they're falling behind in AI and they don't know what to do about it. The origin for the company came about a year ago. We were at a coffee shop and we were just comparing notes on our respective projects. And we noticed that often these AI projects get off track because decision makers get matched to the wrong solutions. And so we thought it would be so much better if we could connect with decision makers earlier in the process to give them independent advice, vendor agnostic advice on what was the best solution for their environment. And so that's how AI Guides was born, of us serving as matchmakers between clients, decision makers, and vendors out there so that they got the best fit for their environment.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's fascinating, right? The combination of humanities and science to create a company that, the way I understand, is to kind of prevent these kind of fiascos, right? When
Exactly.
before
Yes.
before they happen
Precisely.
deploying AI. That's amazing. So I've been, and by the way, let me tell the audience, right? There is a website. It's aiguides.co, right? This is what you have the corporate website. That's amazing. There's a lot of material that I would say I would ask the audience to go there and take a look. And one of the things that I saw there is this sentence, and it kind of starts with your pitch, right? It says many AI projects fail. That's kind of the point there. So of course I'm really intrigued by that because we sell AI projects as well. So the question is, why do you think is that? Why do you think many or some AI projects fail? But what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I'll take this one on because, as I sometimes say to John, this is kind of the not so secret in the industry right now, that this is a thing. It's an issue that people are tackling. And I think one of the reasons for that, a big reason for that, is that, I mean, we know already that even just, well, I want to say plain Jane IT or software development projects are really, really hard to get off the ground and make a success. And then when you add the AI machine learning part into the mix, that just really multiplies the challenges in some quite specific ways. In particular, there's a really strong interaction between the technology itself, like the algorithms, and the data, and then the infrastructure required for that. And if you do not get those aligned really, really well, then you're going to have a lot of issues. So that's to me, that's a big piece. That's actually why I'm excited about the AI as a service option, like offerings like yours, because I think it can help to mitigate some of those risk factors.
Got it, absolutely. So there, the role is for you guys to be like a consultant, right, or an advisory role, where you say, okay, before engaging in this and that technology or technology stack, let's take a look to what you're trying to solve, right? So how do you do that? What is the most important thing when it comes to first having an advisor, and what is the role and the kind of the way that you deploy your consultancy, let's say?
Sure. Well, so absolutely. So first of all, we do think having an advisor is important, because, like I was saying, there's a lot of moving pieces. So I mentioned the technology pieces, infrastructure, data, but then you also need to have a very good custom fit with your particular organization, your particular business goals. And so you really need someone to come in and say, look, here's the landscape. We need to understand exactly where you are on that landscape and exactly what other pieces that are out there can help you. And we think that you kind of need someone who isn't necessarily attached to one particular part of that landscape to be that guide. And so that's kind of what we do. We start out by sort of at a high level, getting to know your situation, what your use cases are. Then we move on from that into more of a deep dive. Let's really look at where you sit on this landscape, get into the weeds a little bit. And it's only at that point, after we've gone through all of those pieces, that we would say, okay, based on who you are, where you are, what your goals are, here's where we think you should head. So that's basically our strategy.
Got it. So it's like understanding the problem and what is the use case and the kind of objectives, and say, okay, that's if that is what you want to accomplish, this is the technologies out there that help with that, right? So I'm assuming that in order to do that, and that's how you and me, we know each other, right? Working together on some specific of this project, right? So I'm assuming that you have to, on one hand, be talking to a lot of customers, potential companies that are dealing with potentially AI, and then AI companies, right? And how do you do that? How do you manage to all these relationships?
John, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, and so it's about keeping track of like what some of the developments in the industry are. Plus, we're networked into a couple of different communities that have an interest in exponential technology. And so it's trying to stay up on the latest literature and being connected with the community. The hardest part is understanding and being abreast of all of the new offerings that are coming out, because there are so many different ones, and there's just a lot of good choices out there for people. So that's the good part. The hard part is trying to decide from the dozens or hundreds of choices that might be relevant for them, what's the best fit.
Totally. I was talking to Gartner the other day, and they talk to many companies, and the guys told me that just in the space of chatbot, which is one of our areas, right? But just in that space, they have counted 2,000 competitors.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, and just that makes AI guides a lot of sense, because like how I'm supposed to choose? I cannot have an RFP and have 2,000 companies running in there. That's nuts. So it requires.
Exactly. And so, we wouldn't profess to know all of those chatbot companies, but we reach out to people and then engage with the vendors. So just like we sat down with you to get some detailed specs on how it works and so forth, so we can do a vetting process. That way, we're not saying that we know every good vendor out there, but what we're saying is that we know good vendors, and it's possible to tell a good one from a bad one, and that all of the names that we recommend to a client has gone through that vetting process.
That makes a lot of sense, and kind of diminishes the risk of going
Precisely.
south with one of these projects, particularly in a space. And I don't know if you agree, right? But is in a space on one hand, very exciting, a lot of things, and of course, Jennifer, as a data scientist, that the amazing outcome and results that are possible, but as well there is a big hype around the entire AI, and some of the potential outcomes are sometimes exaggerated, right? So I guess that's one of the things that you have to make your customers realize, that what is realistic on the approach.
Absolutely. And you do sometimes have to get under the cover, open the hood to get a sense of that. So I think that that's a really important kind of piece of this process. There's that piece, seeing, what is the actual functionality of this piece of technology. And then there's also that matching piece, because, if we, as you say, if we just look at the chatbot landscape, I'm willing to bet that all of these chatbots have a slightly different technology under the hood. They're all going to perform in slightly different ways. So some of them are going to match well for a particular use case. Some of them are going to match well for another use case. So there's the hype piece you have to sort of get past. And then there's the actual, what is the really specific functionality when you start to look under the hood as well.
Yeah, just for the chatbots, some of them, they're what I call glorified menus. So it's essentially it's like,
yes,
okay,
yes.
so you can click A, B, or C.
Yeah.
I cannot type anything. So what I mean, a bot, okay, but what is the chat part of the chatbot word here? So it's more like a menu. Guys, could you tell us some experience, some example with a specific use case of a company that has benefit from your activity?
For sure. One example was it was a Canadian company, and they have X-ray machines all across the country. And if these machines break down, then there's a really big operational impact on them. So the machines were all networked together, and they were each generating a lot of data. So what the company wanted to be able to do was to say, okay, we've got all of this data. Are we able to predict when they're most likely to break down so that we can engage in preventative maintenance? And they thought, this seems like the type of problem that AI should be able to assist with. And they're right. Their first call was to a very large, well-known vendor who said, we would be happy to help, and we can provide you with an enterprise solution, and the cost will be about $400,000, and it could take a couple of years. And so their second call was to us, and they said, that's just beyond our scope, and we don't want to spend that long on an enterprise solution. So what we were able to do with them was define, precisely what their requirements are, do a deep dive on how their data, what data they had, what their infrastructure was, and then we ended up matching them just with a boutique shop that was able to come up with a custom solution for them at a fraction of the cost. And so what the client liked was, well, there was the savings. It was a lot cheaper to go with a $20,000 option instead of a $400,000 option. But also, by making that recommendation to them and connecting them with this vendor, we were able to give them peace of mind. It was a topic where they felt nervous, anxious, uncertain. It's a complicated field, and they were really worried about making a wrong decision. And so by giving them that confidence, We help move them along their journey from being, lagging behind to being more of an industry leader, and they really appreciated that.
Wow, that's an amazing use case. It's X-ray machines and kind of a predicting, right? Use the past to predict the future based on all that
Exactly.
data, which is a classic usage, right? Or classic use case for machine learning. That's and well,
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
really in that ballpark. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and 20 grand is very different from 400 grand, right? So
Yeah.
so it's that's a big impact and an overall solution. And I'm assuming they were happy with the final result, right?
Exactly. And it was faster, it was easier, and it was just more of what they needed. And so it was a
That's
really good
fascinating.
result.
Yeah, that's amazing. So speaking of that, right? So which kind of verticals or use case do you think they can benefit more from AI, right? This X-ray machine
Yeah.
predicting
Yeah.
engine is kind of surprising to me. So what else do you think
Sure.
is out there?
I mean, this is a question that it's easy to answer and it's hard to answer. It's easy in the sense that there are so many use cases. It makes me think, if we were to travel back in time to the last industrial revolution, and you were to ask, well, what are some good use cases for electricity? Which industries would benefit from electricity? The answer is all of them, right? And it's just trying to figure out, well, where do you start? And so that's the harder part, is picking the good categories. And so for us, when we try to simplify it and meeting with clients, because sometimes they'll come in with a specific problem, but that might only be a symptom of a larger problem in the organization. And so we want to make sure that we're broad enough in considering what are the use cases. And so we try to bucket them into three main categories. One is around customer experience. And for that, in a number of cases, like an Inventa offering makes sense. So customer service, but then operations, and that's where the predictive maintenance, that would be an example of an operational problem.
Very specific to that organization. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And then there's back office support. So it's just trying to make the business run a little more efficiently on the administrative side. And in terms of verticals where we've been able to apply it, it's certainly in government, but financial services like insurance, and even in professional services like law firms.
Wow, that's interesting. And yes, as you said, Inventa works. I mean, the artificial intelligence and machine learning are big spaces, right? There's, I guess there's always the controversy if machine learning is a kind of AI or if AI is a kind of machine learning. There's always, I guess, that we can have all kinds of opinions. But when it comes to AI and the specific of user experience, what is the application of electricity there? I mean, everywhere, right? But what do you see that AI can be changing the way companies and organizations are dealing with customers?
I'm going to field this one because I think it's really very exciting, the potential impact that this technology could have in that space. I think that, so the short answer to that is basically, I think it's going to have a massive impact. And I think the reason for that is that if you think about what customers want, what they want in terms of their customer service, customer experience, they're always going to in terms of the high level, they're always going to want more, and they're always going to want better. Like that is never going to change.
That's not going to change,
right?
That's that seems the same industrial revolution. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you think about it in those terms, you can see how AI technologies, like the Inventa technologies, they are going to really enable that. Like I'm very much an optimist on that front, because within the last 5 to 10 years, we've really seen this technology catapult ahead in terms of its ability to do natural language processing, text processing, and start to interact with people in a way that's just intuitive and familiar. And so I really see that there's going to be these great, what John and I sometimes call these sort of super workforce teams that are going to be made up of the AI customer experience, customer service part, plus the people. And they're going to come together, and, you know, the AI will be kind of on the front lines, helping people whenever they need it. No more waiting in a queue for an hour to get some help, right? So that's going to be great. And then on the human side, they're going to come in when more nuance is required, more decision making, more responsibility for customers in that sense. And so I think it's just I hope anyway, it's going to be a really good partnership on that front.
I'm pretty sure. And I guess also, right, back to the initial point, we have seen and we will see as well some fiascos, right, along the way, but as well as great successes in many use cases, right?
Well, and I think one of the shifts that has to happen there is moving away from just automation to the intelligent technologies, because you were talking about the chatbots that have, you know, they're really just a menu, basically. They don't have the intelligent part. And to me, that's where the optimism comes from, is that the customer service, if you have these intelligent technologies, then they're going to be able to provide that level of service that will be genuinely valuable.
Absolutely. And that's what I imagine, right? That you would call using a Zoom call or similar to a customer service, you would talk to a digital person with, if you could say, well, that looks like an actual person and is effective, always there, solving my problems. You might prefer digital assistant than a real one. That's I mean, we are still, and Inventa tries, of course, to work on that, but we're still far from having a customer service that is indistinguishable from human. But we'll get there. Pretty sure that everybody is after that, because everyone wants it.
Absolutely. And to some extent, sorry, John, I was gonna say it's okay if they're not completely indistinguishable from humans as well. Sorry, John, go for it. Yeah.
And I think that can also be good for the customer service reps too, right? If they're able to offload some of the more routine calls to their digital coworker, then it can be a better experience for the customer and for the customer service rep.
Absolutely. All right. So you guys, you have been working with several companies. I'm assuming talking to hundreds of vendors, and you know a little bit of Inventa, right? We've been working together with some examples and use cases. What do you think about Inventa?
It is my pleasure to field that question. And yes, Inventa is great. I mean, we first came across you when we were looking for a good AI as a service for a client. And I'm going to speak to the tech side of things, as I sometimes do, but was really excited to see. I was looking around. We were talking with you, and I was excited to learn about your semantic engine technology and approach, because I think it really fits in very nicely with some of the stuff I was saying before, where you've done a lot of that legwork to get the technology piece meshing well. And this is really important from that democratization of this technology point of view, because a lot of organizations want to get in on this technology, but they have this problem where they don't have enough data to really fully power the technology. So I see you as having kind of found a way to get around that problem with your semantic engine, right? Where you can say, no, we've done a lot of the initial work for you, and we have supplied sort of the initial power to the engine, and now you can benefit from that by bringing your specific use cases to us. So yeah, I'm very excited about your offering.
Thank you so much. And I can tell you that sometimes we talk to data scientists, right? And then when they see the semantic model, they say, well, that's not data. And well, it is data. It's just a lot of data. Is the data that we already, I mean, if you speak English and you live in America, you know a trillion things already, right? So,
yes.
So if you just use the raw bits and bytes of language without the nuances of what this language means, then the data, well, you have the opportunity to not really use it the way it should be used. So that's what we try to do, right? Build this common sense behind the natural language information, which is, to me, what makes and that's my personal opinion, that among all the AI problems that the technology is facing, self-driving cars, playing Go, predicting the future, I believe that human natural language is the most complicated, and that's the analogy that I use. Is like, hey, we by now we should have a lot of self-driving cars driving around our cities, and they're not there. So it was not as easy. But you know who is doing that? No problem. Cats, dogs, pigeons. They do that. They don't. You will not see a dog crashing against a tree.
No, they've got it figured out.
Just by accident. They are smart. However, you will not see a dog speaking English. That's another. That's a whole nother level. So that's the way I try to think on in terms of AI. Listen, I would be talking to you guys for hours. That's amazing, and I really appreciate your time. What would be the best way for our audience to find you, to locate you, to get in touch with you guys?
The easiest way is to go to our website. So we're AI Guides, plural, AIguides.co. So if you go there, then there's an opportunity just to book a meeting with me and Jen. And if you've got a problem, we'd be really happy to talk about it. See if AI can help you with it.
Amazing. All right. So John, Jennifer, thank you so much. For the audience, remember AIguides.co. That's what is going to prevent your next fiasco. So don't forget that website. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.